Hello students, let us start this session with 13th chapter, Organisms and Populations. Organisms and population comes under ecology. So before we start up with this chapter, it is very important for us to learn the definition of the term ecology. Ecology is the study of interaction among the organisms, between the organisms and its physical environment. Let us consider a very simple example. The deer is interacting with the other members of its herd. So here the interaction is among the organisms. Since deer is herbivorous in nature, it is dependent upon the plants. So here the interaction is between the organism. In order for the plant to survive, it is dependent upon the soil, light and water, which are nothing but the abiotic factors. So, ecology is the study of interaction among the organisms, between the organisms and its physical environment. Globally, Alexander von Humboldt is known as the father of ecology. But in India, it is Ramdev Mishra who is known as the father of ecology. It is a very important one-mark question with respect to NEET. Ecology is concerned with 4 levels of biological organization. The first one is organisms, second one is populations, third one is communities, and the fourth one is biome. Organism, it can be a unicellular or a multicellular one. Example, it can be a plant or an animal. Populations is a group of organism, is called as population. Community, it is a group of population of a same or a different species living together in a same area in a particular time. Example is a same or a different species of fishes living together in a same area in a particular time. Communities then give rise to ecosystem. In your NCERT textbook, they haven't mentioned about the ecosystem. So please make a note of it. Ecosystem is where the biotic organisms interact with physical environment. Example, fishes living in a pond. So it can be a same or different species of fishes which is living in a pond. Together they are called as ecosystem. Then a group of ecosystem give rise to biomes. Example is tropical rainforest. Organisms and its environment. Ecology at organismic level, that is a physiological ecology, explains how different organisms are adapted to their environment in terms of survival and reproduction. That is, it means to say the physiological ecology explains how a living organism is adapted physiologically to that particular environment. Example, how a kangaroo rat is adapted to the desert environment, how the cactus is adapted to the desert environment, how the polar bear is adapted to a very low temperature tundra biome. But then what causes the variation in the temperature in the desert biome and in the tundra biome? It is because of the rotation of the earth and the tilt of its axis causes the annual variation in temperature and season. Therefore, the major biomes such as the desert, the rainforest, the tundra are formed due to the variations in their temperature and in their precipitation. This is the graph which represents the biome distribution with respect to annual temperature and precipitation. The y-axis represents the mean annual temperature and the x-axis represents the mean annual precipitation. The precipitation can be in the form of rain or snow. The tropical rainforest receives the maximum amount of rain, followed by the coniferous forest and then by the temperate forest. And towards the y-axis, the grassland has the maximum temperature, followed by the desert. If you look below, the Arctic and an alpine tundra has a sub-zero temperature. That is, it is having the temperature around -5, -10, -15. And here the precipitation is in the form of snow. And if we assume that the life exists only in this biome, then we are wrong. Life can exist even in an extreme and harsh environment such as Rajasthan desert, where the temperature is extremely high, the rain-soaked Meghalaya forest, deep ocean trenches. Trenches means the pit or the depression present in an ocean. Torrential stream. Torrential means fast moving or a violent stream. Polar regions, which is very cold. High mountain tops. Thermal spring. Thermal springs means naturally present hot water from an earth's surface and in the compost pits. Apart from this, life also exists in our small intestine, which is a habitat for many microbes. The first abiotic factor which we are going to study is temperature. Temperature is the most ecologically important environmental factor. The average temperature on the land depends upon the season. It gradually decreases from the equator towards the pole. That is, this is the equator, and as it proceeds towards the pole, the temperature decreases gradually. And the temperature also decreases from the plains to the mountain tops. It ranges from sub-zero level, that is less than zero level, in polar areas and high altitudes. And it can be even greater than 50 degrees centigrade in tropical deserts. But in certain special habitats such as the thermal springs and deep sea hydrothermal vents, the temperature can exceed greater than 100 degrees centigrade. The distribution of the plants and animals are dependent upon the temperature. That is the reason why we don't find the mango trees in extremely cold countries such as Canada and Germany. We also don't find the snow leopard in Kerala forest. Snow leopards are found exclusively in cold climate such as in Himalaya region. Does the temperature affect the physiology of the body? Yes, the temperature will affect the kinetics of the enzyme, the basal metabolism and the other physiological functions of the organism. Based on the range of temperature tolerance, organisms are of two types. The first one is eurythermal, second one is stenothermal. Eurythermal organisms are those that can tolerate and thrive in a wide range of temperature. Example, cow, sheep and man. It means to say eurythermal organisms can tolerate wide variations in the temperature. Stenothermal organisms are those which can tolerate only a narrow range of temperatures. Example, penguin and crocodile. It means to say stenothermal organisms can tolerate only a small variation in the temperature. It cannot withstand high variations in the temperature. The next abiotic factor what we are going to study is the water. Water is one of the most important factor influencing the life of organisms. We all know that the water is very limited in the desert areas. That is the reason why the desert organisms have got a special adaptation to adapt to the desert environment. For aquatic organism, the quality of the water is very important, such as the chemical composition of the water and the pH of the water is extremely important. Apart from these things, the salinity of the water is also crucial. The salinity of the water is measured in parts per 1,000. In inland waters, the salinity is 5%, whereas in the sea water, the salinity is around 30 to 35%. Whereas in hypersaline lagoons, the salinity is greater than 100%. What is hypersaline lagoons? Hypersaline means the salinity which is greater. Lagoons means to say when a shallow body of water which is separated from a larger body of water with the rocks or coral reefs. So this is a shallow body of water and this is the larger body of water. Larger body of water. It can be a sea or an ocean, and this shallow body of water is called as lagoon. Based on the range of tolerance towards the salinity, organisms are of two types, euryhaline and stenohaline. Euryhaline are those organisms which can tolerate a wide range of salinity. Example, stingray and sea urchin. Stenohaline are those living organisms which can tolerate only a narrow range of salinity. Example, goldfish. The third abiotic factor which we are going to study is the light. Light is an extremely important component for the plants. Plants use it for photosynthesis and also for flowering. Many animals are also dependent upon the light. The diurnal animals depend upon the light for their foraging activity, for their reproductive and for their migratory activities. The fourth abiotic factor which we are going to study is the soil. The nature and the property of the soil is different in different places. It is dependent upon the climate of that particular area, the weathering process, the sedimentation process and the method of soil development. The various characteristic features of the soil such as the soil composition, the soil grain size and the soil aggregation determine the percolation and the water holding capacity of soil. Now what do you mean by percolation? Percolation means, let us assume this is the soil. If we put the water, if there is an easy penetration of the water, then this is called as percolation. And the opposite of this is the water holding capacity. That is, if this is the soil, if the water doesn't penetrate easily and if it is accumulating here, this is called as water holding capacity of the soil. So these two features are determined by the composition of the soil grain size and the soil aggregation. Apart from these factors, the other factors such as the pH of the soil, the mineral present in the soil and the topography, all these factors determine the plant and an animal present in that particular area.